Hello again, all you lovely people, reading with me the story of the Phoenix and the Carpet by E. Nesbit. We're on to chapter 3 today, and it's called The Cook. Now, in Victorian times, if you were quite well off, you would have a cook and you would have a maid. And your cook would be called Cook. You wouldn't give them a name. And they would do all your dinners for you, which I quite like the sound of. This story is all about the cook, but I wonder what adventures the children will get up to. Shall we find out? Sunday was always a very pretty day. Father brought home flowers on Saturday, and there were always sausages on toast for breakfast. On this particular Sunday, there was a special dinner, and there was an angel pudding. After dinner, Father was very sleepy indeed, because he had been working hard all week, and looking after Lamb, who had a horrid cough. He said, "Come along, kids, I've got a super book from the library, and I'll read it to you." Mother settled herself on the sofa, and said she could listen quite nicely with her eyes shut. The Lamb snuggled into the corner of Daddy's arm, and the others got into a happy heap on the hearthrug. When an angry knock came at the door, it opened a little bit, and the cook's voice said, "Please, may I speak to you a moment?" Mother looked at Father and sighed. Mother went out into the hall, and there was Cook, very red in the face, and she seemed to get redder and redder, and she said shortly and fiercely, "If you please, Ma'am, I should wish to leave at the end of the month." Mother looked pale, and the children were shocked, peeking through the crack of the door, because it seemed so very unkind of the cook to want to go like this, and on a Sunday too. "Why, what's the matter?" Mother said. "It's them children," the cook replied. "There's that new carpet in their room, and it's covered with mud, both sides, thick beastly yellow mud, and sakes alive knows where they got it." "Well, I'm very sorry," said Mother gently. "I will speak to the children. And you'd better think it over, and if you really wish to go, tell me tomorrow." Next day Mother had a quiet talk with Cook, and Cook said she didn't mind if she stayed on a bit just to see. Jane's truthful explanation that the mud had come from the bottom of a tower where there was buried treasure was received with such disbelief that the others just looked sad and said they wouldn't do it again. But Father said that children who could only talk silly nonsense were not fit to have a carpet at all, and indeed shouldn't have one for a week. So the carpet was brushed and folded up and put away in the cupboard at the top of the stairs, and Daddy put the key in his trousers pocket. "Till Saturday," he said. "Never mind," said Anthea, "we've got the Phoenix." But as it happened they hadn't. The Phoenix was nowhere to be found. That Sunday ended in gloom, and the next day the Lamb's cough was worse. A good deal of time was spent in looking for the Phoenix. "It's a bird of its word," said Anthea. "I'm sure it's not deserted us. But you know, it had a most awfully long fly yesterday, and I expect the poor thing's feeling tired out and wants rest. I'm sure we can trust it." The others tried to feel sure of this too, but it was hard. No one felt very kindly towards the cook, since it was entirely through her making such a fuss about a little mud that the carpet had been taken away. "She might have told us," said Jane, "and Anthea and I would have cleaned it." But I ask you to believe that they didn't do all of the things on purpose which so annoyed the cook in the following week. Sunday, mud on both sides of the carpet. Monday, licorice and aniseed boils put in a saucepan to boil, which got forgotten and burnt the bottom of the saucepan. Tuesday, a dead mouse in the pantry. The fish slice was taken to dig the grave with, and the fish slice broken. Wednesday, chopped suet left on the kitchen table. Robert added a chopped soap, but he says he thought the suet was soap too. Thursday, broke the kitchen window by falling against it during a perfectly fair game of robbers. Friday, blocked up the kitchen sink with putty and filled the sink with water to make a lake to sail paper boats in. Went away, left the tap running. Kitchen rug and cook's shoes ruined. On Saturday, they got the rug back, the carpet. Mother had gone over to Granny's and had not taken Lamb because of his bad cough. But we'll take him out, said Anthea. We'll take him somewhere for some fresh air. So they dressed the lamb and themselves in warm clothes, and all the chairs and tables were moved off the carpet by the boys, while Jane held the lamb, and Anthea rushed through the house one last wild hunt for the missing phoenix. "Oh, it's no use waiting for it," she said, reappearing breathless in the room. "I know it hasn't deserted us, though. It's a bird of its word." "Quite so," said the gentle voice of the phoenix from beneath the table. Everyone fell on their knees and looked up, and there was the phoenix perched underneath the table. "I've been here all the time," said the phoenix, yawning politely behind its claw. "If you wanted me, you should have called me." "Oh, come along, do," said Robert, holding out his hand. "Come along, good old phoenix." "Good old beautiful phoenix," said the phoenix. "Good old beautiful phoenix, then. Come along," said Robert impatiently, with his arm still held out. The phoenix fluttered at once to sit on his wrist, and Robert stepped back onto the carpet. "We shall have to get back before dinner," said Cyril, "or Cook will be furious." Robert was starting to say "she," when the door burst open and the cook came in with a fierce whirlwind and stood on the corner of her carpet with a broken basin in one hand. "Look here," she cried, "my only basin, and how am I to make the dinner?" "I'm awfully sorry, cook," said Anthea gently. "It was my fault, and I forgot to tell you all about it, and we broke it when we were telling fortunes. I meant to tell you." "Meant to tell me?" replied the cook. She was red with anger. "Meant to tell? Well, I mean to tell too. I've held my tongue this week, though, and I shan't hold it no longer, and goodness sake, what have you got that blessed child dressed up in his outdoor clothes for?" "Well, we were going out to get some fresh air," said Anthea. "Going out? I'll take care you don't," said the cook, and she snatched the lamb. "Look here," said Cyril in stern desperation, "will you go away and make your pudding in a pie dish or a flower pot or a watering can or something?" "Not me," said the cook. "I warn you," said Cyril solemnly, "beware before it is too late." "Too late yourself," said the cook. "And where did that there yellow bird come from?" She pointed to the phoenix. "I wish we were on a sunny southern shore," Anthea said suddenly, "where there's no cough." Instantly the giddy-go-round and falling lift feeling swept over the whole party, and the cook sat down flat on the carpet, holding the screaming lamb. The moment the tipsy-topsy-turvy feeling stopped, the cook opened her eyes and gave one sounding screech and then shut them again, and Anthea grabbed the desperately howling lamb into her arms. "It's all right," she said. "Look at the trees and the sand and the shells and the great big tortoises. Oh dear, how hot it is!" It certainly was, for the trusty carpet had laid itself out on a southern shore that was sunny and no mistake. The greenest of green slopes led up to glorious groves with palm trees and tropical flowers and fruits. Between the slope and the blue sea lay a stretch of sand that looked like a carpet of jewelled cloth of gold. Everyone tore off their London in November coats, and Anthea took off the lamb's coat and his hat, then his jumper, and then the lamb himself suddenly slipped out of his little blue trousers and stood up, happy and hot, in his little white shirt. "I'm sure it's much warmer than the seaside in summer," said Anthea, "and Mother lets us go barefoot then." So off came the lamb's shoes and socks, and he stood digging his tiny, happy, naked pink toes into the golden, smooth sand. "I'm a little white ducky," he said, "what swims?" And he splashed quacking into a sandy pool. "Oh, let him," said Anthea, "it can't hurt him." "Oh, it's so hot." The cook suddenly opened her eyes and screamed, shut them, screamed again, opened her eyes once more and said, "Why, my cat's alive! What is all this? It's a dream, I expect. Well, it's the best I ever dreamed. Seaside and trees and a carpet to sit on. I never did." "Look here," said Cyril, "it isn't a dream, it's real." "Oh, yes," said the cook, "they always say that in dreams." "It's real, I tell you," Robert said, stamping his foot. "I'm not going to tell you how it's done, because that's our secret." "Well then," said Cyril impatiently, "it's a jolly fine day. Here, you others, let's go and talk." They walked along the shore until they were out of earshot of the cook, who still sat gazing about her with a happy, dreaming smile. "We must roll the carpet up," said Cyril, "and hide it so we can get at it at any moment. The lamb can be getting rid of his cough all morning, and we can look about. And if there are cannibals, we'll leave and take her back. Or we'll leave her here." "Is that being kind?" asked Jane. "She isn't kind," retorted Cyril. "Well, anyway," said Anthea, "the safest thing is to leave the carpet there with her sitting on it. Perhaps it will be a lesson to her, and anyway, if she thinks it's a dream, it won't matter what she says when she gets home." So the extra coats and hats were piled on the carpet. Cyril shouldered the well and happy lamb, the phoenix perched on Robert's wrist, and the party of explorers prepared to explore. The grassy slope was smooth, but under the trees there were tangled creepers with bright, strange-shaped flowers, and it wasn't easy to walk. "We ought to have an explorer's axe," said Robert. "I shall ask Father to give me one for Christmas." There were curtains of creepers with scented blossoms hanging from the trees, and brilliant birds darted about quite close to their faces. "Now, tell me honestly," said the phoenix, "are there any birds here handsomer than I? Don't be afraid of hurting my feelings. I am a modest bird." "Not one of them," said Robert, "is a patch on you." "Oh, I was never a vain bird," said the phoenix, "but that confirms my own thoughts. I will fly off." It circled in the air for a moment, and returning to Robert's wrist, went on. "There's a path to the left." And so there was. Now the children went on through the wood more quickly and comfortably, the girls picking flowers, and the lamb inviting the pretty dicky birdies to see that he himself was a little white real water-wet duck. And all this time he hadn't coughed once. The path turned and twisted, and always threading their way amid a tangle of flowers, the children suddenly passed a corner, and found themselves in a forest clearing, where there were a lot of pointed huts. The huts, as they knew at once, of cannibals. It was a long way back to the carpet. "Hadn't we better go back?" said Jane. "Go now," she said, and her voice trembled a little. "Suppose they eat us?" "Nonsense," said Cyril firmly. "Look, there's a goat tied up. That shows they don't eat people." It was while they stood hesitating on the edge of the clearing that a tall man came out of one of the huts. The man looked at the children. Hiding was impossible. He uttered a shout, and at once people leapt out of every hut and swarmed like ants over the clearing. Without an instant's hesitation, the 4 children turned and ran back along the forest path. Cyril was carrying the lamb, who screamed with delight. "Gee up, squirrel! Gee up! Gee up!" he shouted, and Cyril did gee up. The path was a shortcut to the beach, and almost straight away they saw through the trees the shining blue and gold of sea and sand. They raced down the sand. They could hear behind them as they ran, pattering feet. The sands were golden and bare. There was seaweed, shells, turtles, but no cook, no clothes, and no carpet. "Oh, on, into the sea!" gasped Cyril. Their feet were splashing in the warm shallows before his breathless words were ended. The calm baby waves were easy to go through. It is warm work running for your life in the tropics, and the coolness of the water was delicious. "Look," said the phoenix, "what are they pointing at?" The children turned, and there, in the sea, a little to the west, was the head of the cook. For some reason or other the men had stopped at the water's edge, and were all talking at the top of their voices. They were all pointing fingers at the head of the cook. The children hurried through the sea towards her as quickly as the water would let them. "What on earth did you come out here for?" said Robert, shouting. "And where on earth's the carpet?" "It's under me, in the water," replied the cook happily. I got a bit warm sitting there in the sun, and I just said, I wish I was in a cold bath, and just like that, the next minute, here I was. It's all part of the dream, you know. Excuse me, said the phoenix's soft voice, breaking in on the general sigh of relief. I think these people want your cook. To eat? Whispered Jane. Hardly, answered the bird. Who wants cooks to eat? Cooks are employed, not eaten. They wish to employ her. How can you understand what they say? Asked Cyril doubtfully. It's as easy as kissing your claw, replied the bird. I speak and understand all languages. It's quite easy when you know how it's done. I should advise you to get the carpet and give them the cook. You can take my word for it, these people will not harm you now. It is impossible not to do what a phoenix says. So the children at once got hold of the corners of the carpet, pulled it out from under the cook, and spread it on the sand. The cook, who had followed, instantly sat down again, and at once the native, now strangely humble, formed a ring around the carpet, and fell on their faces on the rainbow and gold sand. The tallest man spoke. He says, the phoenix remarked after some time, they wish to employ your cook permanently as queen. There was a breathless pause. Well, said Cyril. Everyone laughed at the idea of the cook being a queen. They couldn't help it. I wouldn't laugh, warned the phoenix, ruffling out his golden feathers, which were extremely wet. It seems there is an ancient prophecy of this tribe, that a great queen should some day arise out of the sea with a white crown on her head, and, well, you see, there's the crown. It pointed its claw at Cook's frilly white cap. Look here, said Cyril to the cook, these people want you to be their queen. Now, would you really like to stay, or, if you promise not to tell a word about what's happened today, we will take you back home. No, you don't, said the cook. I've always wanted to be a queen, God bless our queen, and I always thought what a good queen I would make. Now I'm going to, until the dream's finished and I wake up. Are you sure, Anthea asked the phoenix anxiously, that she will be quite safe here? She will find being a queen a very precious thing, said the bird solemnly. There, you hear, cook, said Cyril. You're in for a precious thing, so mind you're a good queen, cook. Long may you reign. Some of the cook's subjects now came from the forest with long garlands of beautiful flowers, white and sweet-scented, and hung them respectfully round the neck of their new sovereign. What? All them lovely flowers for me, exclaimed the cook. Well, this is something like a dream, I must say. She sat up very straight on the carpet, and the people began to dance. Small, strange-shaped drums were beaten, odd-sounding songs were sung, and the dance got faster and faster and odder, till at last all the dancers fell on the sand, tired out. The new queen, with her white crown cap all on one side, clapped wildly. Oh, bravo, she cried, bravo! Oh, it's better than the theatre! When the savages had recovered their breath, they begged their queen to leave and come with them to their huts. The finest shall be yours, O queen, they said. Well, so long, said the cook. No more kitchens for me, thank you. I'm off to my royal palace, I am, and I only wish this here dream would keep on going for ever and ever and ever. She picked up the ends of the garlands that trailed around her feet and disappeared into the shadow of the forest. But what about dinner? Said Robert abruptly. There won't be any dinner with no cook, Anthea reminded him, but there's always bread and butter. Let's get home, said Cyril. The lamb did not want to be dressed in his warm clothes again, but Anthea and Jane managed it, and he never once coughed. Then everyone put their own warm things on and took their place on the carpet. Anthea said, Home! And the carpet, in one whirling moment, laid itself down in its proper place on the nursery floor. And at that very moment Eliza, the maid, opened the door and said, Cook's gone! I can't find her anywhere, and there's no dinner ready. She hasn't taken her box or her coat. Nobody knew what had happened to the cook, except for the children. Mother was upset at losing the cook, that Anthea felt very, very miserable. Lamb never coughed all that Sunday. He babbled of coloured sand and water, but no one took any notice. On Monday morning, very early indeed, Anthea woke and suddenly made up her mind. She crept downstairs in her nightie, sat on the carpet, and with a beating heart wished herself on the sunny shore again. The sand was splendidly warm. She could feel it at once, even through the carpet. She folded up the carpet and put it over her shoulders like a shawl, for she was determined not to lose it, no matter how hot it might be to wear. "Well, here you are again," said the cook, when she saw Anthea. "This dream does keep on." The cook was dressed in a white robe. She had no shoes and no cap, and she was sitting under a screen of palm leaves. "Are you happy?" asked Anthea. "Oh, yes, my dear," said the cook heartily. "Nothing to do unless you want to. I shall teach them cooking. They burn everything to a cinder." "Can you talk to them?" "Yes," the happy cook queen replied. "It's quite easy to pick up." "Then you don't want anything?" Anthea asked anxiously. "Not me, miss, except if you'd only go away. Long as this here dream keeps up, I'm as happy as a queen." "Well, goodbye then," said Anthea, much happier. She hurried into the wood, threw herself on the ground and said home, and there she was, rolled in the carpet on the nursery floor. "Well, she's all right anyhow," said Anthea, and went back to bed. "But Mother will never believe me when I tell her." Do you think Anthea's going to tell her mother? Or do you think she'll keep it a secret? You'll have to wait until tomorrow to find out. Bye.